Hello everyone. I'm so happy to see you all again on my channel today. As promised, I'll continue sharing with you the next chapter of the touching story of LyTuDiep and CEO James, two people who have gone through countless ups and downs together, from days of illness and distance to moments when hope seemed completely lost. In the previous episode, Diep had just been discharged from the hospital after a long period of treatment, while James continued to be the quiet strength behind her, caring for her, worrying about her, and loving her in every small way. But will happiness truly smile upon them, or are new challenges still waiting ahead? Let's watch today's video until the end to find out the next developments in Diep and James's journey, where love, perseverance, and faith are once again put to the test. After months of battling illness, James finally decided to take Diep to Australia for treatment, hoping to find even the faintest chance of survival. Their journey began on a rainy day at the airport, where James pushed the wheelchair while Diep quietly held his hand, her eyes filled with worry. Neither of them spoke, only the sound of flight announcements echoed through the air. Amid the crowd, they seemed to drift into a world of their own, where two hearts clung to each other on the thin line between life and death. When they arrived in Sydney, the cold air of a foreign land seeped into their skin. They knew no one, just a few sheets of medical papers and a fragile belief that as long as there's a chance, we must fight. But things quickly took a turn for the worse. Diep's condition deteriorated faster than anyone expected. She could barely stand, every breath was heavy, her eyes slowly losing light. The doctors held an emergency meeting, then quietly pulled James aside. The doctor's voice was calm, yet each word cut deep. "We'll do everything we can, but her chances of survival are very slim." James stood frozen in the stark white hallway. He didn't know what to do. Only the steady beeping of Diep's heart monitor echoed from inside the room, each sound squeezing his chest tighter. Those days nearly broke him. By day, he ran around arranging documents. By night, he sat by her bed, watching every drip from the four and every breath she took. Sometimes the nurses urged him to rest, but he would only shake his head, his voice hoarse, dark circles under his eyes. "I'm afraid if I close my eyes, she won't be here when I wake up." There were nights when the rain never stopped outside the window. James sat alone under the dim light, staring at the glass as raindrops trickled down, whispering prayers. He didn't know if he was speaking to God or just trying to comfort himself, that Diep would open her eyes in the morning. He had promised her, "We'll get through this together." And now, even with only 1 in 1,000 chances, he had to keep that promise. Then one freezing morning, the nightmare struck. Diep's heart suddenly stopped. The alarm blared, doctors and nurses rushed into the room, their footsteps pounding down the corridor. James was forced out, his hands trembling as he banged on the door, shouting, "Diep! I'm here. Don't leave me, please." He collapsed, tears mixing with desperate prayers. Time seemed to stop. Until the door opened. The doctor stepped out, his face drenched in sweat, and gave a small nod. "She's stable now." A miracle just happened. James nearly fell to his knees, his body shaking with overwhelming relief. When he was finally allowed inside, Diep was still weak, pale, but her lips curved into a faint smile. She couldn't speak, only reached out, her eyes brimming with tears. James took her hand, his voice trembling amid the steady hum of hospital machines. "Thank you, for not letting go." It was a smile he said he'd remember forever, a smile born on the edge of life and death, where people realize that as long as there's one more breath, there's still hope. In the following days, Diep slowly recovered. The doctors were astonished by her strength. The woman they once feared would never wake up was now taking her first steps down the long hospital corridor. James stayed close behind, pushing her wheelchair, fixing her blanket, smiling every time she turned to look at him. Together, they learned again how to live, how to believe, and how to be grateful for even the smallest moments. Time passed, and Diep's recovery exceeded all expectations. When the doctor announced she could be discharged, James fell silent for a long time before whispering, "Thank you, God, thank you, life." They left the hospital under the warm Sydney afternoon sun, the sky clear and blue after days of rain. On the flight back to Vietnam, Diep rested her head on James's shoulder, eyes half closed, peaceful at last. James held her hand tightly the entire trip, afraid that if he let go, everything would vanish like a dream. When the plane touched down, the wheels hitting the ground sounded like a bell marking a new beginning. Outside, the homeland breeze carried the familiar scent of rice fields. Diep closed her eyes, tears rolling down her cheeks as she whispered, "At last. I'm home." When they arrived, James's mother and little Nee ran out to greet them. His mother hugged Diep, her hands trembling, too emotional to speak, while Nee wrapped her small arms tightly around her mother, crying tears of joy. In that simple, warm moment of family reunion, Diep felt her heart beating strongly again, slow but steady, a reminder that she was still alive, and that a brand new journey was waiting just ahead. On the first morning after returning home, the sky was an unusually clear blue. Soft rays of sunlight streamed through the window, filtering past the thin curtain and scattering into gentle, shimmering patterns that swayed with the breeze. Diep lay quietly on the bed, the blanket pulled up to her chest. Her eyes still carried the exhaustion of long months of treatment and the long journey back from a foreign land. Each breath felt heavy, yet deep inside, a calm sense of peace began to bloom, the kind of peace she once thought she would never feel again. From the living room came the sound of cheerful laughter, little Nee's bright voice followed by James's deep, tender tone. "Come on, sweetheart, hurry or you'll be late for school." Nee giggled in reply, her tiny slippers pattering softly on the tiled floor. The door closed, the sound of the car engine faded into the distance, leaving behind a serene quiet in the small house, where only Diep and James's mother remained. The gentle aroma of chicken porridge filled the room. His mother entered, carrying a steaming bowl in her hands, her voice warm and kind. "Come, dear, have a little breakfast, then rest some more to regain your strength." Diep nodded softly, sitting up with the blanket still around her waist. Watching the older woman bustling about, she felt a comforting warmth in her heart, the feeling of being cared for, of being home, of being loved. It was something she had missed deeply, something no sterile hospital room in a foreign country could ever offer. After eating, Diep leaned back against her pillow and looked out the window. Outside, sunlight poured over the garden, birds chirped on the mango tree behind the house, and a soft breeze rustled through the erica palms, fluttering the edge of her mother's blouse. It was such a simple, familiar scene, yet to her, it was the most beautiful sight in the world. Then, as the sunlight flickered across the floor, Diep suddenly thought of the farm she and James had been building. Images from before their trip to Australia came flooding back, the clinking of hammers, the half-finished fences, the shared dream of a green, thriving farm full of hope. She turned to her mother-in-law and spoke softly, her voice tinged with worry. "I wonder if the farm is finished now, Mom. There's still so much to do, and I've been lying here doing nothing. It makes me anxious." The elderly woman smiled gently, sitting beside her, her wrinkled but warm hand resting on Diep's shoulder. "All you need to worry about right now is getting better. Everything else, let James handle it. If you fall again, he'll lose sleep over it." Hearing that, Diep smiled faintly, though concern still shimmered in her eyes. She glanced at a small photo frame on the bedside table, a picture of her and James standing on that same piece of land when the farm was still just a dream. She knew he was working tirelessly to finish it, not just for their shared dream, but to give her a place to return to, a reason to keep living. Outside, the sunlight grew warmer, casting a golden glow across the room. Diep exhaled softly and closed her eyes, letting her thoughts drift away with the sound of the gentle wind brushing against the porch. Outside, James was at the construction site, where every brick and every steel beam carried a dream he and Diep had once built together. In the early morning, dew still clung to the blades of grass, and the earthy scent mingled with the smells of fresh cement, lime, and wood, blending into that distinct aroma of creation and new beginnings. The roar of the cement mixer echoed through the air, along with the shouts of workers calling to one another. Pull it up. Adjust to the left. The whole site buzzed with life and rhythm. James stood in the middle of it all, blueprint in hand, his sharp eyes following every detail. There were traces of dust on his shirt, but his expression was bright, steady and full of hope. His phone rang. It was the construction foreman on the other end, his voice raised above the noise of the machinery. "Mr. James, we've started putting up the main frame. What about the kitchen area? How high do you want the walls so we can get that done today?" James paused for a few seconds, glancing around the site before answering calmly. "For now, focus on finishing the main structure. I'll discuss the kitchen details with Diep once she's feeling better." His voice was warm but firm. He wanted everything to be exactly as she had envisioned, she, who had once carefully noted every design idea in her little notebook, the window frames, the garden corner, even the spot for the bougainvillea vines. To James, this house wasn't just a home, it was proof of their love, and of all they had endured together. After finishing with the workers, James walked to the temporary office nearby. A wooden desk sat in the middle of the unfinished brick room, with neat stacks of documents laid out. His business partner had just arrived, a calm, well-spoken middle-aged man with a friendly smile. They shook hands, their laughter mingling with the distant clanking of hammers, creating an atmosphere both industrious and cordial. They spoke about expanding production, about a new product line, and about sourcing premium materials from China. James listened intently, occasionally jotting down notes, his eyes steady and thoughtful. He never rushed decisions, every number, every clause was reviewed carefully. For him, this wasn't merely a business venture. It was the foundation of his family's future. "Everything must be solid," he said slowly, his tone firm but composed. "I don't want to build anything on an unstable foundation." The partner nodded with admiration, clearly impressed by James's principles. Their discussion lasted until noon, yet the atmosphere remained open and sincere. They even spoke of traveling together to China to personally inspect the materials, to ensure the highest quality. As they talked, a gentle breeze from the nearby fields drifted through the open doorway, carrying with it a trace of morning warmth. James looked out toward the line of trees swaying softly in the distance, the framework of the house gradually taking shape before him. His heart felt a little lighter. In his mind appeared Diep's face, thinner than before, but her eyes now bright again. He smiled faintly and whispered, "Rest easy, my love. I'll take care of everything here." Then he turned back to his plans, continuing his work as the familiar rumble of the cement mixer filled the air. The sound of progress, of hope, and of a brand new beginning. At home, the soft midday sunlight streamed through the window, bathing the room in a warm golden glow. The rich aroma of chicken porridge filled the air, mingling with the gentle scent of scallions and pepper rising in thin curls of steam. James's mother gently pushed the door open, carrying a steaming bowl of porridge, a small silver spoon neatly placed beside it. "Come, dear, have a little so you can regain your strength," she said softly, her voice tender and kind. Diep sat up, her hair falling loosely over her shoulders. Her face was still pale, but a faint spark of life glimmered in her eyes. She smiled shyly as she reached for the bowl. Please, let me do it myself. I feel bad, I'm always troubling you. The older woman just waved her hand and smiled warmly. Nonsense. As long as you can eat, that's all I need. You're still so weak, how could I let you do anything? Hearing those words, Diep felt her nose sting with emotion. Since marrying James, she had always regarded his mother as her own. The woman never spoke grandly, but every gesture and every look overflowed with love. She thought back to the cold hospital days in Australia, the hum of machines, the sterile white light, and realized how a simple bowl of porridge here could fill her heart with warmth. The sound of the front door opening broke her thoughts. Little Nee ran in from school, her cheeks flushed pink, hair tousled by the afternoon sun. Grandma! I'm home. Her cheerful voice rang like a small bell. She rushed to hug her grandmother and planted a noisy kiss on her cheek, making them both laugh. What a good girl! James's mother said, stroking the child's hair lovingly. What did you learn at school today? Nee's eyes sparkled with excitement as she replied. Today, our teacher taught us a song called Mommy Loves Me So Much. Grandma, listen. Before anyone could answer, she stood proudly in the middle of the room, spreading her little arms and began to sing. Her voice was soft and innocent, missing a few notes but pure and full of joy. Diep leaned back against the headboard, listening with trembling lips and glistening eyes. The grandmother smiled too, hands folded together, her gaze tender and full of affection, as though all the love in the world had gathered in that small room. When the song ended, Nee ran to her mother and wrapped her tiny arms around her tightly. Mommy, I sang to make you better soon. Diep bent down, kissed her daughter's forehead, and whispered, her voice choked yet full of warmth. Thank you, my little girl. Mommy will get better soon, and then we'll go out together, okay? Nee squealed with delight and began chattering again, about her friends, her teacher, and everything that filled her little world. Her laughter mingled with her grandmother's gentle voice, echoing through the small house, a simple, homely sound, yet overflowing with happiness. Outside, the afternoon sunlight slanted across the veranda, glimmering through the green leaves and casting soft reflections on Diep's face, still tired, but glowing with peace. She looked out into the distance, her heart swelling with quiet gratitude. Perhaps, after all the storms and struggles, this was the most precious thing of all. To simply be here, surrounded by the ones she loved. Late in the afternoon, the golden light of the setting sun spread softly across the veranda. Birds chirped as they flew back to their nests, and a gentle breeze carried with it the faint scent of ripening rice from the nearby fields. James returned home after a long day at the construction site. His shirt was still dusted with lime, sweat dampened his shoulders, yet his eyes shone, calm, bright, and filled with quiet contentment. He pushed the door open and stepped inside. Diep was sitting by the window, a half-open book resting in her lap. Sunlight streamed through the curtain, painting her skin with a warm honey glow. The sight made him pause for a moment, wanting to etch it deep into his heart. How are you feeling today? James asked softly, his voice low and gentle. Diep looked up, her eyes glimmering. Much better. I hope I can recover soon, so I can help you and everyone again. James sat down beside the bed and took her small, delicate hand into his. Her fingers were thin but slowly warming in his grasp. No need to rush, he murmured, his gaze tender yet full of concern. Your health comes first. Everything else, we'll handle it. Diep smiled faintly, a fragile, gentle smile, like sunlight filtering through the leaves at dusk. They began talking about the design of the new kitchen, the little corner Diep had dreamed of, with a small wooden table, a place for potted herbs, where she could make coffee in the morning and cook dinner together with him in the evening. I want it to be built low, she said carefully, her tone soft but certain. So it feels airy and full of light. It'll be beautiful when the morning sun shines into the garden. James listened intently, then nodded. I'll tell the team. We'll do it exactly how you want. His voice was steady, deep, carrying the weight of a promise. The room grew warmer with their quiet conversation. Outside, the wind rustled through the trees, and the faint scent of damp earth still lingered from the night's rain. James's mother gently opened the door, carrying a plate of fresh fruit. Behind her, little Nee ran in, singing as she went, her tiny feet covered in dust. Mommy! Grandma and I picked mangoes. She proudly held out a tiny green mango, making everyone laugh. James shook his head, smiling as he looked at the three women in his life, his mother, his wife, and his daughter. His chest tightened with emotion, gratitude, love, and a lingering fear. Because there was a time when he thought he would never see this again, the soft sunset, the scent of flowers, the sound of his daughter's laughter in their little home. He turned to Diep and said softly, "Have some fruit, love. Later I'll take you outside for some fresh air. The sky is beautiful today, the clouds are so low they look close enough to touch." Her eyes lit up with childlike excitement. "Yes, I'd love that. It's been so long since I've seen the sunset." James's mother placed the fruit on the table and smiled warmly. "You two go on out to the yard. Nee and I will tidy up. The weather's perfect today." The door opened, and the golden light of dusk spilled into the room, wrapping Diep's shoulders in a soft, silk-like glow. A gentle breeze lifted strands of her hair, brushing against her cheek. James helped her up, and together they stepped out to the veranda. Outside, the sky looked freshly washed after the storm. Little Nee played and laughed with her grandmother nearby, their laughter mingling with the whisper of the wind. Diep took a deep breath, feeling the warmth of the earth, the sunlight, the air of home filling her chest. She turned and met James's tender gaze. And in that moment, no words were needed, just a single look was enough. Because both of them understood. After all the pain, fear, and nights of despair, they had truly come back, to life, to love, and to the gentle peace of being together again. After all the storms, Diep had finally overcome her grave illness, a journey that even the doctors called a miracle. She returned with a gentle smile, bright eyes, and a stronger faith than ever before. And James, the man who had quietly carried everything on his shoulders, from work and family to the unfinished dreams they once shared. He never complained, only kept moving forward, because he knew the most important thing was to keep that small flame alive, the flame of love and hope. Now, as their farm neared completion, with the final walls plastered and the window frames glowing in the afternoon light, a new chapter was beginning. But this new journey wasn't just about building a house, it was about rebuilding everything they once thought they had lost: trust, health, and the simple happiness of being home again. Ahead of them, challenges still waited. A major project was about to launch, important decisions were on the horizon, and unexpected turns could once again test their courage. Yet this time, James and Diep would not face it alone, for they had each other, their mother, little Nee, and a home filled with love to return to. Would this fragile happiness last? Or would new storms rise, threatening to sweep away what they had just reclaimed? Stay tuned for the next episode, when happiness returns to the old home, where the story doesn't end, but begins anew. With love and with faith.
Xin chào tất cả mọi người đã quay trở lại với kênh của mình. Hôm nay thì mình đang làm video của xe ozem và lý từ Diệp thì mình vừa mới làm xong. Bây giờ thì mình đang nghỉ ngơi một tí và mình sẽ quay cái video 1 phút nối đuôi này, sau đó mình gửi sang máy tính để mình nối vô và mình edit một số hiệu ứng nữa là sẽ xong. Thì mình đang dự định là video này sau khi hoàn thành thì mình sẽ tải lên vào tối hôm nay và mình sẽ công chiếu vào lúc 7 giờ tối nay. Và mình cũng đang cố gắng để có thể hoàn thành, và hy vọng rằng mọi người có thể theo dõi kênh mình nhiều hơn và ủng hộ cho kênh mình nhiều hơn mọi người nhé. Cảm ơn mọi người rất là nhiều vì thời gian qua đã ủng hộ cho kênh của mình. Thì kênh của mình thường thì sẽ lên nội dung của Lý Tự Diệp và Lý Hoài Ca. Mình đang dự định thời gian tới thì mình sẽ lên thêm nội dung về câu chuyện và cảnh sát Ly nữa. Mong rằng mọi người sẽ yêu quý và ủng hộ cho kênh mình nhiều hơn. Cảm ơn mọi người. Xin chào tạm biệt.